Hi, it's Lee from colouringqueen.net, and today I'm finishing my picture from Wild Soul with the German Shepherd. To be honest, I'm not really happy with the way the picture has come along. I've kind of messed it up a bit, and I'm scared of how to colour this dog, but I'm going to push through and finish it for my Salvo September 2022 colour along. So I hope wherever you are that things are going well for you today. And if you're in the US and in the path or the aftermath of the hurricane, I am sending you lots of positive vibes and prayers that you and your loved ones are safe. I really can't imagine how terrifying that situation would be. I've had a bit of a rough few days with Buddy, my dog, not being well and having seizures sort of every day. And of course, as Murphy's Law would have it, what would happen to someone terrified of needles? Yep, that's right. I got a needle stick injury when I was giving Buddy his meds. So thankfully, though, Buddy is okay, and I managed to give him his dosage and so hopefully that's the last of it for this week, because it's really exhausting. I'm being really tired and whatnot, but obviously nothing compared to what he goes through. So hopefully, he'll feel better this week, next week. So I'm minding Billy again today, and you might hear her little Tinkerbell in the background. She's a little cutie. She follows me around all day, and I've put a picture up of her before on a colour and chat video a couple of weeks ago, I think now. Yeah, she's very cute. She's hard to photograph because she's so black, and she's so tiny. She just blends into everything. And in case you're wondering where Millie is, it seems lately that she's decided to take up residence in the spare room. And she basically has her breakfast and she goes there and sleeps all day until dinner time. And sometimes she exercises a little bit, making a couple of biscuits on the throw rug on the bed in there, or maybe she stalks a gecko, but she's not doing a lot. So I'm gonna let her, do what she wants, because, let's face it, she's a cat and she's going to anyway. But anyway, she's still gorgeous. But hopefully she'll come back to the fold soon and, want to put a little self into videos. So I don't know about you guys, but when I watch YouTube or listen to podcasts or TV, I like to multitask, and I like to do the dishes, I like to garden, I even walk, colour in, film without the sound on. And if that's you as well, there will be a time in today's video that I ask you to stop multitasking and look at a couple of pictures that I will be putting on screen. And I hope that you will be able to do that, because this story today is really important, and it's important that the pictures get a lot of eyeballs on it wherever you may be located in the world. Now, today the story I have to tell you is current. And I usually, if you look at my history, I don't like telling current stories, because I like to know things when the facts are in and the timelines are established. And the timelines when things are current can be a bit of a mishmash. And if it's a court case, there might be still time for appeals, especially in some countries where they have multiple appeal systems, and that might produce a different outcome. But today I'm going to break my own rules and tell a current story because it's important. So today's case takes place in a small town of about 6,000 odd people, and the town's called Fruitland, and it's in Idaho in the US. And the town's called that because of the abundance of apple orchards in the area of just 2.16 square miles. So it's a small town. It's also known as the Big Apple of Idaho. It's near the border of Oregon, and it's only really about 6 miles away from that border, and it lies on the US Route 95. It's a pretty small community, a rural community basically, with like a desert-like climate. There's crime there, but again, it's nothing too serious, and it seems like an ideal place to bring up children. But on the 27th of July 2021, all that would change. On that day, in a house on Southwest 9th Street in Fruitland, it was a day like any other. In that home lives an extended family consisting of Tyler Vaughan, his father, his partner Brandy Neal, and their 4 children aged 15, 12, 5 and 18 months. The 2 oldest children were from a previous relationship, and the 2 younger children are Michael, who's 5. He has a nickname of Monkey or MJ, and his baby sister, Arya, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her name. She has a nickname of Bug, and she was 18 months old when this story takes place. Now, it had been extremely hot during the last 2 months, so from May onwards in that area, and they'd been enduring a bit of a heat wave. It'd been over 100 degrees, and instead of playing in the street and riding their bikes during the day, kids in the area had mostly stayed at home until the evening when it was cooler, but daylight still until 9 o'clock at that time of year. And both Brandy and Tyler, they worked at the same store, but they worked different shifts so they could have someone home with the children. Brandy had been working for 8 days straight at that time and still had to work on this day. And she left for work at 12:30 p.m, promising Michael, or Monkey as he's called, that she would soon have a couple of days off. And Michael loved to play and be with his mum, so that was important for him. So Brandy called home on her break about 4 o'clock while she was still at work, and she spoke to Tyler, checked in on the family. Monkey at that time had been playing with his monster trucks, and the older children, of course, being teenagers or close to teenagers, in the case of the 12-year-old, they were sitting there on their phones and playing with their devices. And of course, young little Bug was having a nap and she was asleep. Now, Tyler's dad, the grandpa, he wasn't at home. He'd spent the afternoon getting his hair cut. Then he went to see some friends for a few drinks and a bit of a catch-up. And about 6:30 p.m, Tyler went down the hall and he went down to change Bug's diaper. Now, she was asleep at this time, so he woke her up to change her diaper, and that could be a couple of minutes there. The 2 older children were still in their lounge room, absorbed in their devices, and Michael had put away his monster trucks and he was now playing with his Nintendo Switch. While Tyler was in Bug's room, he ordered a pizza for the family, and the receipt for that shows the order at 6:40 p.m, but it's not clear if this was when it was ordered or the time that the payment was actually processed. He then went and had a cigarette, and presumably he went outside to do this, and it's estimated that he was gone for at least 15 minutes, but those sorts of times, they can be a little bit blurry. So during that time, a parent's worst fear happened. Tyler noticed that Monkey was no longer in the lounge room playing with his Switch. He looked through the house and he was nowhere to be found. He looked outside and on the street and still no sign of Monkey. So he called Brandy at work, and she was with a customer at the time, but she noticed how frightened Tyler was that he couldn't find Michael. And he was screaming out on the phone, calling for Michael, but there was just no reply from him. She first thought that Michael was probably hiding. He's a curious kid and he loves to play. And she suggested that Tyler go in and look under the bed. She put her phone in her pocket while she continued to work. And of course, Monkey wasn't under the bed. Tyler came back and he told her that he wasn't there. And it was then that Brandy felt that fear in the pit of her stomach. She told a co-worker what was happening, who told her to go home. Grabbing her purse from her locker, she quickly got in her car and drove as fast as she could to her home. Tyler called 911 about 7:05, and then he drove to the local splash pad around the neighbourhood looking for Michael. And it was hot, and Michael had tried to walk to the splash pad before. I think it's like a water park, but he had quickly been brought home on that occasion. And now, while Tyler was out searching for Michael, their oldest daughter was picked up by a friend, and she was 15. Tyler's father, the grandpa, he then arrived home just moments before Brandy. And on hearing the news that Michael was missing, the grandpa immediately drove out to the fields, so further out, to look for Michael, as Tyler had already looked in the local streets. Now, the trip from work to home usually took Brandy about 13 minutes, but on this occasion, she got stuck at a red light and arrived home about 7:15. By then, the police were already there, and there were concerned neighbours. Like, about 40 people were already out front, and a search was immediately commenced. Brandy drove to the splash pad as well, and she was about to ask the women in the area if they'd seen her little boy, but it's a small town. News travels fast. This town only has about 6,000 people in it. And they already knew that Michael was missing, and more frightening, they told Brandy that they hadn't seen him. Now, it was thought at first that this was a case of a child just wandering off. But by 7:20, he was officially reported missing. And at this point, from the family's point of view, it all gets blurry. The child is missing in a small town. They've already searched all the areas a 5-year-old could reasonably expect to wander off on their own within that short time frame, and they've come up empty-handed. The pizza that Tyler had ordered was delivered by a driver that used to actually be Michael's babysitter when he was a few years younger, when he was a toddler, and that driver was well known to the family. Now, when that pizza was delivered, the search was in full force, and a neighbour actually intercepted the pizza, and the pizza driver was interviewed, and her van and her home were thoroughly searched. By 8:20 p.m, the Payette County Sheriff's Office activated the Code Red system. Now, this is a voluntary opt-in system that residents can sign up for in Payette County. And the system initially sent out alerts to residents in the Fruitland area. This was then expanded to Payette and then New Plymouth, with the last message being sent out at 11:20 p.m. And the alert system attempted to contact over 16,000 phones, 30 TDD numbers, send 2,212 emails, and 3,999 text messages. A Facebook post was also created, and this was shared over 1,000 times, alerting those in the area that Monkey was missing. So you can see they're doing all they can in the 1 hour and 20-minute time frame so far. The Code Red alert system brought out many members of the close-knit community to help search for Michael, and the community were distributing a description of Michael and details about what 5-year-old little Monkey was wearing. Now, the blue-eyed blonde at the time was wearing a light blue Minecraft shirt, size 4 to 6 in the boy's sizing, black spandex boxer briefs with a lime green trim, and a lime green Minecraft character on the left leg, also known as Creeper. Yes, he likes Minecraft. And he was also wearing dark blue flip-flops, or as we call them in Australia, thongs, size 11. Now, the flip-flops were new, and little monkey was still getting used to wearing them. At the time, he was 3'7". He weighed 50 pounds, and as I've said earlier, he is also known as Monkey, or MJ. His father describes him as the best little buddy. He loves colouring books and monster trucks. He's the sweetest and helpful little boy. He's perfect with his siblings. He has an amazing relationship with them, and just overall a wonderful little boy. Now, the system, this red code system that they have, is one that residents voluntarily sign up for on the Payette County website. And I know my friends across the pond are wondering why an Amber Alert wasn't immediately issued. And the reason is simple. The US, like Australia, is a federation, so it's a country made up of states, and different states enact laws, and they're not necessarily uniform. In this case, Michael's disappearance didn't meet the criteria for an Amber Alert because there was no evidence that he was abducted. Amber Alerts are only issued in cases in Idaho where a child was confirmed to be kidnapped, the accomplice or kidnapper's identity is known, and this info is known within 12 hours of the child's disappearance. So in the meantime, local residents, police, fire crews, paramedics, all the emergency services continue to search for little monkey at both ground level and aerial. A helicopter from St. Luke's and Idaho Mountain Rescue joined them. As well, they brought their substantial canine team. Residents in the area were also encouraged to stay away initially from the search area while the professionals were at work, but they did ask the community to check their properties, particularly any outbuildings, and of course check their security cameras if they had any. The search then expanded out. Drones were used, and those drones had video cameras and infrared, but still no sign of monkey. So according to an interview that Brandy took part in, canines tracked Michael's scent to the end of their street and away from the field to the right of their home, and then that scent just stopped, and it stopped abruptly. Michael was also listed on the National Crime Information Centre as a missing person that very night, and his parents, together with other volunteers, continued searching throughout the night for him, with some volunteers still working at 4 a.m. The next day the search would continue, and it has continued ever since. So one of the big problems in these cases is trying to find a timeline of events. What happened when and where, and this case is no different. And so there may be some discrepancies with the timeline. According to Brandy, Michael was sighted in the neighbourhood around this time when his father was changing his sister's diaper and ordering up that pizza. And it appears that Michael could exit the house through the garage, and that's what they believe may have happened, because Michael's described by his mother as very energetic, and it's thought that he was looking for someone to play with, and his neighbours sort of confirm that. He's well known in the neighbourhood, with one neighbour describing him as an amazing little boy, your typical little 5-year-old, very curious, inquisitive, and a fun-loving little dude. Now, sources differ, but there are apparently 3 to 6 people that seen Michael in this time frame. So he knocked on 3 different doors, first at 6:37 p.m. Then he first went next door where the kids have a trampoline or a swing, depending on who you believe. They're older than Michael, but they've played with him before, and I think these neighbours said no, he couldn't come into play because they were going out grocery shopping. Then he went to the house on the other side of them, where there are some older kids who have played soccer with him a few times. and he was seen by neighbours at those two locations, but it looks like he was unable to find anyone to play with him until dinner time. So in the neighbourhood, most of the children are older than Michael. But a few months before he went missing, a little boy his age moved in across the street. And the family actually met the couple at a park one day, and the husband was there. He's in the Defence Services and he was about to be deployed. And the wife and children were going to live with his mum while he was away. Now, the husband's mother, the grandmother, lives across the street from the Vaughans and 4 houses down. But they'd never actually met the grandmother, they'd met the couple. The wife, though, she works from home, and they would sometimes see her outside with her children and they'd stop to talk. But the grandmother, she was never outside, so they didn't get to meet up with her at the time that Michael went missing. So when Michael couldn't find playmates at his first 2 stops, he went across the street and 4 houses down to this house to see if the little boy that had just moved into the area that was his own age could come and play with him. Now, the grandmother is one that answered the door, and she'd never met Michael. She didn't recognise him, and she told him no, as she didn't know him. Now, she seen Michael walk back to Michael's own home to their front yard, but she didn't see him go to the door to the front yard. And as far as we know to date, she is the last person to see him. And they estimate that he went to the houses around 6:30 to 6:45. Now, I know what you're thinking, the neighbours' homes have all been searched. But around this time, there were some cars in the area. One was quickly identified, but there's a bit of a mystery with the other car. It was caught on a ring camera leaving 8th Street and has been identified as a white Pilot with the year of make believed to be between 2016 and 2018. Now, there is some confusion about the car, as Fruitland Police have said they're still looking to identify the owners, but Brandy has said on an audio recording that they know who the car belongs to. Either way, best to err on the side of caution, and if you know anything about that particular car, to tell the police. The police are obviously not suggesting that this person driving is a suspect, but rather just someone that they want to talk to who may have information, may have seen something and not even realised that it was incredibly important, especially to put these timelines together. Meanwhile, searches have continued, and since the time of being notified of Michael's disappearance, the Fruitland Police Department, FBI, the Idaho State Police, and assistance from the Boise Police Department and 13 different Idaho law enforcement agencies have conducted complete searches, including miles of riverbank. They've used private wing aircraft, helicopters, drones, boats with canines, a variety of canines, scent canines, cadaver canines, all types from all over the country. They've even rented planes to bring in special canines from somewhere else in the US. The canines were used everywhere within a 2-mile radius, and as I said, in other places like rivers. They've used kayaks, paragliders. They've covered septic tanks, irrigation canals. They've used tracking dogs. The National Guard has also been deployed and used a helicopter to search the area. And they've gone through fields, they've gone through cornfields row by row. They've searched hundreds of residential properties. The water levels in canals were reduced so that searches could take place. The FBI has been going through cell tower dumps, and every single person in the Fruitland Police Department, which is not a huge department based on the population, but they're all working on Monkey's case and still are. Now, the lead FBI agent on Michael's case is Doug Hart, and he is a very well-respected FBI agent. He was the one who also worked on the Smart case, and he says he's not going to give up until Michael is home. So the day after Michael disappeared, a website was created by the Fruitland Police and the community called findmichaelhome. It's a way to send in tips or links to Crime Stoppers, and a poster that can be downloaded and printed out and distributed, which many have done. So much so that there's a whole Facebook group dedicated to not only supporting the family, but also getting the word spread and the poster distributed far and wide. So what people do in that group is they download the poster and they let everyone know where they've put it up and where they've distributed it or shared it to on Facebook. Now, it's not a group that discusses theories or what could have or should have or, any of that. It's clearly about supporting and distributing the photo, and the parents have repetitively said, any tips, please, just tell the police, rather than everyone playing chair detective, tell the authorities. So even in a small town though, like Fruitland, there are registered SOs, and there are a number of registered SOs in the area near Michael's home. However, Idaho law doesn't allow automatic search of these premises at this time. It's unknown if any of those properties have actually been searched with a cooperation or voluntarily without a search warrant. Fruitland Police have kept their cards pretty close to their chest, and they've only released a small amount of information to the public. But Monkey's family have done their best to keep Monkey's case at the top of people's minds. Brandy has been the primary spokesperson for the family, and she's worked to ensure billboards are displayed. She's active on social media. She's always trying to get more people to distribute posters, etc. Tyler, on the other hand, he tends to stay away from social media, but the couple as a whole have taken place in fundraisers. One was set up to raise a reward for the return of Monkey, and initially that was kickstarted by one donation from one man who donated $10,000 for the return of Monkey, and he said if that little boy is found and brought home safely, that will have been the best money I've ever spent. Now, the reward is at over $52,000 and it still hasn't been claimed. A couple of months after this, the police gave a press conference updating everyone, and it was there that they advised that there was an increased probability that Michael was abducted due to no headway being made with those ground and aerial searches. And the police later admitted that they've been treating this as an abduction from the start. Obviously, the police may have reasons for this theory that are not publicly known, but the fact that such extensive searches haven't located Michael, the proximity to major truck routes and the state border, together with Michael's scent being lost suddenly at the end of the road, suggests that he disappeared in a vehicle. However, we don't know that for sure because Fruitland Police are being very tight-lipped, which is understandable for the integrity of their investigation. Jennifer Coffin-Darfur, a retired FBI agent known for her work with Gabby Petito, told the press in a phone interview that she believes Michael is one of those a very small percentage of kids that are subject to a stranger abduction, and that percentage is about 4% according to her, because most people are familial abductions or someone that you know. It's the stranger that we fear. It seems that Fruitland Police agree with this theory too, because earlier this year they admitted that they've been working the case as potential criminal abduction since the start. And the family also echoes this view. They don't believe that Michael would have wandered off. According to his parents, he knows his name, he knows where he lives, he knows what city and state he lives in, he knows his mum's name, and they were working on phone numbers and the address when he disappeared. But they don't believe that he would have gone willingly with a stranger. So police eventually asked for some assistance from the public to identify a man in his late 20s or early 30s, wearing black shorts, dark shoes and a white shirt with the sleeves cut off, and that man hasn't come forward or been identified. Now, he was seen walking through the splash pad area of Crestview Park, and that photo is now on screen together with a photo of Michael. So if you're vacuuming or having a cup of coffee or zoning out and falling asleep with my ASMR voice, can you please come over and look at the picture, because you actually might be able to recognize this person, or they might not even know that they are so important to this investigation. And you may well have seen Monkey. Remember, he disappeared from Fruitland, but he doesn't have to be in Fruitland now. So they might know something that can bring this investigation forward. So on the left side, you'll see Monkey when he was 5. He'd now be 6 years old. And on the right side is the man that the police would like to speak to. And who knows what he might have seen or noticed, if anything, or not, but they need to speak with him. Now, the police this year have confirmed that abduction is their primary focus on their ongoing investigation, with all members of the Fruitland Police Department working the case. And both the family and police have asked anyone with tips or information to send them to the Fruitland Police Station. They have a special page on their website, an email address, or you can do it anonymously with Crime Stoppers. I'll pop some links below the video, and if you have any information at all. So far, the police have followed up on over 1,200 leads, many of which have been relayed from the family to the police, because people will tell them something and then they pass it on to the police. And when they hear something, the police have been very helpful. They're a big part of the family's life. And Brandy and Tyler have said that when they've passed on information, the police have always followed it up. They even followed up on a tip in Greece that the family received. Someone sent some pictures to Brandy of a little boy in Greece. He spoke English, he had an American accent, and he looked a little like Michael. The parents knew instinctively, though, it wasn't Michael. But the little boy, he looked so sad, and he looked like he had a black eye. So they actually asked local law enforcement if they could arrange for someone to check on his welfare, which they did. And it turned out that that little boy was being abused and he was removed from the home. So Brandy and Tyler felt that at least they've been able to help one child. So on the first year of anniversary of Michael's disappearance this year, the couple gave an interview, and as part of that they thanked everyone for continuing to look for Monkey and for all the support that they've received from both law enforcement, their local community and the wider community. But the interview was really significant because Tyler also spoke, whereas normally Brandy is the sole spokesperson for the couple, and she wasn't there at the time. And Tyler addressed the concerns that people had on why he hadn't spoken out before. And in my opinion, you could clearly see in the interview that he is just turned up. He feels responsible and guilty that Monkey disappeared on his watch. And as sometimes happen in those circumstances, often couples' relationship tends to turn into a blame game. But in this case, the couple aren't doing that. They appear to be very united in their support of each other, as well as their belief that Monkey is alive and they want him found and brought home. And significantly, they spoke of Monkey in the present test and even corrected the reporter when they used the past tense. The police have always said that the family has cooperated fully, and the family in turn have publicly been extremely appreciative of the police efforts and communication with them. Now, although the police have not come out and publicly cleared the family, there's no reason known to us at this stage to suspect that they are involved in Monkey's disappearance. And considering the timeline that has been provided and the older children being home, Michael being seen on his way back to the home, it would be extremely difficult in those circumstances, if that timeline is correct, to see how there could possibly be any involvement by the family. Now, the family, together with the community and other organisations, are still continuing to try and get Michael's face out there and his story and hopefully bring him home. And in August of this year, a partnership with Camway Transportation and the WSP's Missing and Unidentified Person Unit, they've taken part in a program which basically places photos on semi-trailers that travel across North America, and they're hoping that Monkey's face on those semi-trailers. Remember, I said this town is very close to a trucking route, and maybe someone seen something on that route. So they're hoping that this will generate leads to help find not only Michael but also other missing children. And the Homeward Bound Project program that organised this unveiled 2 truck trailer rigs in August, and they're going to take off on the roads throughout the US and Canada in the hopes that someone will see these images on the trucks and, you know, look at that new little boy in the neighbourhood or that little kid they've seen at a park, and, you know, hopefully they'll get some leads that result in Michael being brought home. Now, throughout all of this, the family have continued to hope for the safe return of Michael, and they've given out a number of statements. As I said, they're really active in searching for Michael. They're working hard with the police department and all authorities, and they believe positively that he is alive, and they make a number of public appeals for help bringing him home. And they've said that also, not only do they want to bring Michael home, but they also want to help other people in the same situation that they've found themselves in. And they've already managed to do that in a number of ways. First of all, by helping that young boy in Greece. But it's because of Monkey's case and their successful lobbying that the law has been changed in Idaho in relation to endangered children. So after hundreds of emails from Monkey's Warriors, which are a team of supporters trying to find Michael and trying to find a solution for the gap in the Amber Alert system, that Senator Abby Lee from Fruitland and Representative Ryan Kirby from New Plymouth introduced the Idaho Endangered Missing Persons Act, which is also known as Monkey's Law. Now, this was passed on the 31st of March of this year, and it basically creates a new missing person alert statewide. So when a vulnerable individual goes missing, regardless of the criteria for an Amber Alert, this will fix that gap and the system will be activated very quickly so that people know that there is a vulnerable or endangered missing person to be on the lookout for. So in Michael's case, that could have been crucial if that was activated, particularly as where he lives is so close to the border of Oregon and so close to trucking routes. So Brandy and Tyler, as well as their children, you know, obviously are doing things tough. Brandy has been in counselling since the beginning, and Tyler has as well. And Tyler, you know, made a few comments on that interview that he has trouble getting out of bed each day, but, you know, they've got to go to jobs, and they've got 3 other children still to look after, but it seems like he is really suffering, and I can't imagine what it would be like to lose your child. I really can't. It's bad enough when you lose your car keys. Imagine, losing your child. So, of course, the family has come under fire. Not everyone is supportive, and there's been a lot of speculation and rumours online. They've had people accuse them of harming their child. They've also had their own children being taunted by others, even at school. A bit of, bullying and the general worst of people sometimes, but they've also seen the best of people as well, especially from those communities. I'm not going to address those sorts of things because, first of all, there's nothing on the Fruitland Police Department and no press releases that corroborate any of that. And second of all, at the heart of it, there's a child missing. So these things often can be very detrimental to police investigations. They make things go off on a tangent and follow up things that have no basis. And really, the heart of it is a child is missing. So Monkey is now 6. He may have grown, his hair colour may have changed, and he may not be in the state or even in the US for that matter. But if you do see a little child, or if someone has said something to you, or if you live anywhere, if you can share his poster and get the message out there that he has disappeared and he is a missing person, then everyone can do their little bit to try and find this young little 5-year-old boy that should be at home with his family, that should be spending Christmas at home with his family. I, really have to say too, though, a lot of people have been critical of the Fruitland Police Department, but I really don't see anything that they've done that warrants that criticism. They were on the ball pretty well straight away. They've gone to huge lengths following up over 1,200 leads, getting FBI involved within 2 days. They've set up websites. They've constantly communicated. A lot of victims of crime are always saying that they, don't know anything because the police never communicate with them, and this is not the case here. So I think the police department and the actual community and the wider community have done such a tremendous job looking for Michael and trying to get the message out there. But like a lot of cases, his message and his face still haven't reached like a national level. And when you think of other children that have disappeared, they seem to get a lot more publicity than others. So I'm thinking of Summer Wells in the US and William Tyrrell in Australia. And, obviously, some stories are sexier for the media, and some people are, more of a drama in the media, and that sells products and papers and media subscriptions. But yeah, I really don't know why Michael's case hasn't got the attention as others. And I guess, like all things, it's hard to compare one case to another. But yeah, hopefully he will be getting a bit more attention, and hopefully we'll find out what has happened to this cute little boy at some stage. Yeah. But anyway, until next time, that's it from me, and stay safe out there.